Because people's schedules and stuff, so it's kind of accommodate that. But anyway,
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Hello, this is Jennifer. Do you know how I'm going to be able to share the polls? Oh, I see them now. Thank you. Welcome. As we have people joining us, you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and where you're joining us from in the chat. And we'll get started here in just a minute or two. Looks like we have some people logging in, so we're just giving them a minute or so, and then we will get started. Real estate photography. That sounds like fun. Get to see all the cool places, things that people do with their houses and setting them up. Well, welcome. We'll give it just one more minute here and then we will dive into things. And Brianna, did you have anything that you want to say on the outset before we got into today's conversation?
Sure, I can introduce WWBIC and a couple slides if they're there.
Sure. Oh, I think I just have.
Just that? That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Brianna. I'm the Education and Volunteer Program Manager here at WWBIC. I've been at WWBIC for a little more than 2 years. If this is your first training ever, WWBIC stands for Wisconsin Women's Initiative Corporation. We are a CDFI and a nonprofit located in 5 regions with 7 offices. We have offices in La Crosse, Appleton, and Green Bay, Racine and Kenosha, and Milwaukee, and Madison. We have 3 main pillars at WWBIC. Our training, which is what you're a part of right now. We have technical assistance and we have loans. We helped over 5,000 clients last year by connecting them to critical resources such as workshops, one-on-one coaching with volunteers, and our initiate portal, loans, and other access to capital resources. Today, we're going to talk about speaking powerfully and how to public speak, which clearly I need to take this class myself. But other than that, I'm going to pass it on to Jennifer, who is somebody that is providing one-on-one coaching services through our microloans program and has graciously agreed to teach 4 trainings with us over the last 4 months. And so I'm going to pass it to her now.
Thank you. I think we're always our own worst critic, and I'll even share a little bit about my stories in this space too, because it's certainly an evolution over time. So thanks for having me. It's great to be here with all of you. I recognized a couple names that have been with us, either talked one-on-one or in some of our previous training. So, don't you just love that WWBIC puts all of these training and resources available to you as a new business owner? So if it's been helpful to you, I'm sure they would love to hear about it in the chat. And I know are always interested in getting your feedback on what works best for you. So, as a business owner, and especially when you're a new business owner, I know it can be really hard to carve out time to work on the business and not just in your business every day. So kudos for you to show up today and take some time out. I know if you're like me, I see so many training opportunities that I'm interested in, but do they actually make it on my calendar and do I show up for those? So congratulations taking that time out today, because your future you and your future business will thank you for this. So I can remember when I was thinking about a time when I was sitting at my desk, staring at my computer and the number of participants in the Zoom call, hoping to hear that chime of, oh, there's a new attendee. Speaking of, we have a couple more joining us. I had spent weeks preparing to make sure I felt ready and I could deliver value to my audience. I was hosting a free webinar as a follow-up for a conference that I sponsored. So surely I thought I'd have dozens or more attendees. When what happened? One person showed up. One person. I was so frustrated. I thought to myself, why did I even waste my time? And I almost wish no one had showed up, because at least then I would have had like an hour of my time back on my calendar. But instead, I had to go forward with it and modify this interactive presentation I put together to work for one person and still provide value for them. As an introvert, my journey with speaking has never been easy, but to get the opportunity and then only have one person in the audience, it really stung. Even worse, at the end, I had to try to sell a program that both the participant and I were not very excited about, the dreaded sales pitch. Talk about embarrassment and a frustration. I took speech classes, I've delivered webinars, and I even spoke in front of groups of several hundreds with great feedback. But here I was thinking, what am I doing wrong? I remember thinking there had to be a better way to speak more powerfully and maximize the impact that I could have. After that experience, I felt so badly. I thought, what do I have to do to never have that happen again? I never want to spend hours preparing for something that doesn't hit the mark. I never want to feel salesy. My story I know is not unique, that many people struggle with how to speak more powerfully and make a greater impact. So say yes in the chat if you can relate. I believe that just like there is an art and science to speaking powerfully. And that's why I started researching. And now after spending thousands of dollars, I finally got it. Instead of speaking to the wrong audience, I now have a process and a system to make sure I'm intentional with who I speak to. Instead of speaking just to educate, I'm speaking to connect first. And instead of just delivering a presentation that people like, it drives people to take action and move forward. The past 20 years, I've helped dozens of small business owners just like you to get better results. So in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to speak powerfully to maximize your public speaking. And I see a lot of you there shaking your head in the chat, saying, yes, you can relate to this. So this is the one area that I think we have the most control over, is sharing our own message. We're all speaking every day, and our ability to share a message in a powerful way that impacts and converts is essential. This is the part of the Playmaker winning system that WWBIC asked me to talk to you about today that would have the most value for you for this discussion, to help you walk away with strategies you can use, whether you're talking to one person or a group of 500, whether you're in person or you're virtual, whether you're the host or maybe you're a guest on someone else's platform. This applies to you whether you're a professional speaker, you've done a couple webinars, or you don't even consider yourself a speaker at all, but you want to grow your business and impact more lives. So let's get into things. So today, you're going to learn the tools to increase your annual speaking value, how to gain confidence on how to drive more attendees to actually take action, the most effective presentation structure and techniques, and proven language. So like I said, whether you're speaking one-on-one in a large group, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, online or in person, you're going to be able to maximize those who take the next step. So let's get into it. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to walk away with these 3 areas: how you can set up success, your messaging, and your delivery. As we walk through each section, I always like to preface it of what you're doing today is working for you. Why change, right? But if it's not getting you the results you want, now's the time to consider something different. And I imagine that if you're here with us today, you're probably interested in doing something different than what you've been doing. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is how you can set up for success. So in the next 10 minutes, we're going to talk about how to identify opportunities that you can implement immediately, and some ninja tips, as we like to call them, that might take a lifetime, or many years to really perfect. So let's get started. Let me give you a couple of thought joggers so you can get out a piece of paper in the chat. Love to hear your thoughts on this. So hopefully you can kind of see my whiteboard behind me. So the first thing I want you to think about and reflect on is, why is speaking important to your business? And I have terrible handwriting because I'm a lefty. At least I'm going to blame it on that. So why is speaking important to your business? So think about that question. So that's your first one. And if you want to share in the chat, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, just take a moment to reflect on that. And the second question, why is speaking important to you personally? So we had, why is it important to your business? Now, why is it important to you personally? Speaking the word of God, powerful, powerful. And then the third question to think about, why is speaking important to your audience? Why do they need to hear your message? So hopefully you can see that. Why is speaking important to your business? Why is it important to you personally? And why is it important to your audience? The reason that we're talking about setting up success today is because you'll never get an audience to trust you and want to work with you if you haven't set that up from success ahead of time. And in a space where there are lots of options available to consumers, those that teach are always seen as more credible. So let's look at why it's important to you financially. What is the value of a speaking opportunity? You can use this equation to determine the financial impact of a speaking value. Small changes in any part of the equation can make a significant difference, but which part do you feel like you have the greatest opportunity to improve? So we're going to pull up a poll here. Let me see if I can launch it here. And we want to hear from your thoughts on where do you feel like maybe you have the most opportunity to get better? Is it with booking more speaking opportunities? Is it having a larger audience at your speaking engagements? Getting more contact information from those that attend? Or getting more people to take action? If you thought there was one opportunity you really had the greatest area to improve in, which one would that be? So we'll give you just a minute or two or a minute to complete that. Get a couple more people. Okay, so it looks like majority of you said getting more contact information, and then some of you also more speaking engagements. And certainly you can focus in on multiple of these areas, but by understanding kind of where you're at today and what difference that might make financially, you can really see how much of impact it would be and where do you want to go after things. Do you want to really book more opportunities or just continue to get better, or maybe some combination of the two? Let me stop that. Okay, I think you're still seeing my screen. Great. So this is a great tool to really be able to get really clear on what do you want to accomplish in terms of the impact that you can make through your speaking engagements. So if you'd like the actual speaking value calculator, feel free to drop your email in the chat. We'll make sure to email the template out to you so you can play with the numbers and kind of see how it would change as you manipulate it a little bit on where you can focus. There's a small window of opportunity for you to influence these elements. And just like we talked about with being prepared and setting yourself up for success, it's not 5 minutes before your presentation. So here's the one thing you can do right now to improve. Consider the 5 W's and the H questions. You probably all remember this from school, right? The why, when, what, how, all those questions. Today, we're going to focus in on why, when, and who. So first off, why? What is your goal and the goal of the meeting planner if that isn't you? How can you create that win-win situation? People attend a speaking engagement for ideas, for social connections, for community. So here's a couple approaches to use. In your language, start with using the words you or your in your language and make the meeting planner the hero. What's a win for you? And ask them that question. When? Make sure you get the date, the time, the duration. Ideally, you want at least 2 to 3 weeks minimum lead time before you give a presentation. The number one thing to ask is how much time do I have? And the who. Who is your audience? What do they struggle with that you can solve? How can you really help them? So here's some language that you can use. Your people have this problem. I have a proven solution that will help them with that. The most important thing, though, is to make sure that you're easy to work with. And here's a ninja tip for you. If you want to do more speaking, I know some of you said you were interested in doing more, reach out to your influencers or top clients, your business partners, ask them where they hang out. What groups are they a part of? What conferences do they attend? What podcasts are they listening to? For those that seem like they could be a fit for you, ask them if they know anybody who runs those that they could introduce you to. I know some of you may be worried that these recommendations won't work for you, or maybe you've already tried some of these. Here's what I know. It's those that explore new ideas that find the right solution for them. It may not be what is presented here today, but it's the idea that leads to the idea that makes the difference. Those small changes that can lead to big results. You know, I love working with my client, Matt, recently on this because he manages a LinkedIn group for his alumni association. And he hosted a couple of random webinars in the past where he either presented a topic or maybe he allowed another member of the alumni association to speak. But attendance was really low. And he knew there were hundreds of members there and a big opportunity. So we worked together to obtain feedback from the members on what did they want to hear, and then to schedule recurring webinars with a consistent format so they knew what to expect every time. We created promotional and recap social media posts to extend the webinar beyond just a 1-hour event. And that's already led to greater participation, engagement, and more authentic online relationships. He's getting several new clients out of this group and feeling so much more confident in his approach. That's just the sort of thing I'd love to help all of you with as well. So everyone might be telling you, hey, you're a good speaker, but I'm saying if you're not collecting 60% or more and converting at least 5%, you're not maximizing those conversions. You might already feel like you have a list going and starting to feel a little overwhelmed with improvements you've been identifying. But here's what to do if that happens to you. Star one and put the rest on a quarterly plan, and you can create a system to work on implementing those additional items bit by bit each quarter, and know that you don't have to do it alone. So that's all we have to say about setting up for success. Let's talk about our next topic, messaging. You know, the second topic is messaging. The reason we're going to talk about messaging is because if you confuse, you lose. We have to avoid the curse of knowledge and the expertise that we each have. So if you've never done any formal speaking engagements, these can help you the next time you're at a networking event, or just ask the question, hey, what do you do? Whether you're an expert speaker or you're a novice. So everyone else is telling you the measure of success is praise and positive reviews, but I'm telling you it's your ability to connect and inspire others to take action. You know, and there's a window of opportunity, a window of time for you to boost that bottom line. Don't wait until it's the end of the year. We're already really close to Q4, and it's going to get here sooner than we all want it to be. So the structure you want to use is to first open by connecting, then help and give away your best stuff that they can actually use to get a win now. Then your call to action, and finally your close in Q&A. You will notice that your offer and your call to action is before the close, not after. The content portion should be what expands or contracts based off the time that you have. So ideally, your content section should have the most flexibility there, especially the third section of it. If I had more time, I'd go over all of these, but today we're going to focus in on your opening and your closing. Implementing these tools alone will make a huge difference in your presentation. So the goal of the opening is to connect. It's not to hear your entire career journey or all of your bio or all your credentials. Your job on the stage is not to be the sage on the stage, but to be the guide on the side. The goal is to have a human connection that drives the audience to the next step. So first off, you want to be ordinary. That people feel like, hey, you're just like me. You've walked in my shoes. But you don't want to be so ordinary that they're like, well, why am I listening to you versus somebody else? You want to be extraordinary, that you show credibility, that you've had experiences that they haven't. And finally, you want to communicate your why. By sharing your why, they're more likely to follow you and love you, not just your content. So the best way that we found to do this is through episodic storytelling, not your life story, not necessarily the most painful parts of your life, but here's a framework that you can use, thinking about it as an emotional line. Using a 3-part story can work really well for many people. You know, I used to struggle with X, then this pivot point happened, and now instead, here's where I'm at. You know, things were good, then they got bad, and then they got good again. And you want to be able to do this in 5 minutes or less. You never want to say your product or your program during the opening. But you want to be thinking about, what are other people complaining about? What are they lying awake worried about? No one wakes up hoping for your system or your product. They wake up saying, hey, I need a job. I need money. I need clients. Start with the problem, not the solution, and use the language of your consumer. And like we said, if they're nodding their head, then you know you've got it right. You know, I used to struggle with weight loss. I craved snacks every afternoon and I hated the way I looked in my clothes. But then I discovered a weight loss program. Now, instead of struggling, I've lost 15 pounds in the last 4 months. Instead of craving, I'm full every afternoon. And instead of hating the way I look, I love it. That's just an example of how you could do that very succinctly. So whether you have 2 minutes during a networking conversation to tell somebody what you do, or you have 30 minutes, you can make that smaller or bigger for that situation. Here's a ninja tip for you. Put any controversial points that will help you stand out first, because that will surprise and stand out so that people don't think like, oh, here's the same old presentation I've heard from everyone else. So using a phrase, something like, you know, most people are going to think X, they're going to tell you to do X, but actually here's what I think, here's the truth. And if you insert that at the beginning of your presentation, you'll help them to understand this isn't the same thing that they may have heard in the past. So we have another poll for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel like you are doing connecting through an opening story? So we just opened the poll. You can give your thoughts there, see where you feel like you're at today. Okay, we'll close the poll. Looks like we're a little bit more spread out here. We've got a couple of people who feel like that maybe they're not doing this at all yet, some that are kind of in the middle, and some are a little bit further along. So some all things that, you know, you can continue to take pieces of this and how you can continue to refine and enhance your opening story. Stop sharing that. There we go. Okay. So let's talk about closing. After your offer or your call to action, you'll want to make a tactical close, but you don't want to ever stop there. You want to end with an emotional close because half of people are emotional decision makers and half are tactical. So I'm going to give you 2 options to end on an emotional close to create an emotion that, that you want the audience to have, whether it's to take action, hire an expert, change the status quo, or believe in themselves. So the first option is to close the loop on your opening story. So if you have a story, a personal story that you're telling in the opening, a really powerful story where you come back to it and close that at the end can make a lot of sense. That might be an example of a story. Maybe you talk about experience you had maybe with your father growing up. And then at the end, you talk about what that relationship is like now and how that's transformed, for example. Another way that you can close your presentation is using a repeated stem. This is the fastest way. If you feel like you're bad at telling stories, this is the most easiest way. Or if maybe your audience just seems like they're done hearing stories, like you're talking to a lot of doctors or engineers and you're like, they don't want to hear stories. They want to let's get to it. This is a great way to go. So what you do for repeated stem is you start with 3 consecutive sentences with the same 3 to 5 word phrase. Think about the most famous example of this is the I have a dream speech. You repeat that stem 3 times, and then you say the stem by itself the 4th time. So for example, you deserve a great retirement where you don't have to worry about where the money comes from. You deserve a great retirement where you get to relax on your own schedule. You deserve a great retirement where you can travel if you want to travel, serve if you want to serve, relax if you want to relax. You deserve a great retirement. You won't have to tell your audience that your talk is over. They will feel it on its own using a repeated stem. We have another poll for you thinking about your close and how often do you end with an emotional close of some sort? Okay, we will end the poll. And we're a little spread out here too, pretty evenly distributed here. If some of you that maybe haven't done it all and some that are always doing it. So some tips there that can help you to make it feel like you're not selling, that you're closing in a very connected way, just like you opened. So when everyone else might be giving up on speaking engagements, now is a time when you can really stand out. For some of you that aren't overwhelmed, you're going to run right back to your office and your business. You're going to implement everything we talked about, but avoid these mistakes. Not actually providing value during the content section of your presentation. Selling without embedding examples of your offer or what it's like to work with you within your presentation. And most importantly, ending your presentation with an offer. We've all been guilty of it, but just because we've done it doesn't mean we have to do it any longer. The most important thing to remember is to connect and to teach less. So that's all I have to say about messaging. Let's move on to our final segment on delivery. Then we're going to open up to questions, and it'd be great if you have some questions. So if you are already thinking about it, feel free to add those in the chat. We'll make sure to address those after we go through this section. And if you don't have time to reach out during the session, you can always email me and we can talk about those questions directly. You know, the reason we're talking about delivery today is because without effective delivery, having effective delivery allows you to speak with confidence, and that's critical to driving action. Using engagement, understanding how your audience learns, your presence and powerful conversion statements are the key to maximizing your delivery to get other people to take action. So let me give you a quick few things that you can implement today. Under engagement, think about if your presentation is 40 minutes or longer, what's one or two activities that might even just be like a reflection question or turn to your partner or go into a breakout. How can you implement that into your presentation? And secondly, roadmap your content. It reduces interference and keeps engagement higher. So at the beginning and the end of each section, make sure you close it out. You know, saying things like, that's all I have to say about that now. Let's transition to the second part of our conversation. And here's a ninja tip. Build audience participation from the start. Thank the person that introduced you, thank the person before you, thank the organizer. It might feel cheesy, but you're getting people involved from the beginning. And then your learners. You want to make sure to provide content that applies both immediately, gives them some short-term wins that they can get value now, as well as some long-term things that they can see they might need your help to implement over time. So let me give you some things that might take a few weeks to implement. So that's an example of a phrase that you can use to help them get an idea of what they can do now, as well as how you could help them in the future. Now let's talk about some conversion accelerators. These are gold. As I go through them, drop any that you've used in the chat because we can all learn from each other. And these are not all of them I'm certain of. There's probably some great things, especially some of you that said you've had some success in this that you're using. The first is an I believe statement. I believe that every presentation should have an I believe statement. Second would be a credibility statement. For example, in the past 20 years, I've helped small business owners just like you score more and better clients. A separation statement. We talked about this before. You know, when everyone else is telling you X, I'm saying Y. What is your separation statement from your competitors? An urgency statement. You probably heard me say this when there's a small window of time. How do you get people to feel like this is important to act on now? A linear path to learning. This one's a little bit more involved. What you do is you take your audience and you break them up into 3 groups, and you tell your audience the offer is for all 3 groups, because your audience is going to make excuses why they shouldn't take action and why what you're offering isn't for them. So it could be, you know, how long they've been in school, how long they've struggled with the problem, what other solutions they've tried, like whether you've tried one thing, you've tried some things, or you feel like you tried everything. This is for you. Maybe it's what they want out of their career. Whether you want freedom, flexibility, or finances, this is for you. You come up with those 3 ways that you're dividing your audience and telling them all that this is for them. So whether you've spoken to prospective clients, you've given a few talks, or you've spoken hundreds of times, the season tickets is going to help you drive more people to think positively about your firm. And then finally, picture past the sale. Use the phrase picture a day 3 times repeatedly. The first time it's going to be tactical. You want to help them check something off their list. The second time is going to be an audio phrasing. What would they love to hear? What would they want to have someone say to them? And the last one's going to be an aspirational statement. So an example of this is to say, picture a day when you don't have to worry about what you're going to say. When you get up on stage and you know exactly the right words at exactly the right moment. Picture a day when someone from the audience comes up to you after your presentation and says, I want to meet with you. Picture a day when you already have a steady stream of clients to speak with, picture a day when you have a steady stream of clients every time you speak. Your audience is going to recall that audio statement that you use twice as often as any of the others. You've got to get your audience to picture what life is like to work with you if you want them to take action. It's a great way to end your tactical close. So drop in the chat any examples that you can recognize from some of what I've used today of these different conversion accelerators. And while everyone else is telling you the measure of success is that praise and positive reviews, and although many will give you that, I'm telling you it's your ability to inspire others to take action. Schedule a meeting, attend the next presentation, visit your business, whatever that is. So the best place to start here is to create that separation statement that when everybody else is telling you X, I'm saying Y. That's all I have to say about delivery. You know, one of the most common questions I get is, Jennifer, can you help improve my talk and book me on more engagements? And the answer is yes. Every day I work with small business owners just like you to help them improve their messaging and finally get the results that they've been looking for. So the next step for you is you can use your camera on your phone and you can scan the QR code. And as Brianna mentioned, you're able to book a call through WWBIC directly with me. So that will bring up the calendar link directly to that. And if in addition, if you book this next week, you'll also get access to those season tickets to be a better speaker that we're opening right now only to people as part of this presentation at a special price for this group. So what that is it's a 4 1.5-hour strategy sessions to work through getting more speaking opportunities and maximizing those that you have. What it does is allows me to speak directly into your business. So it's specific to you and your voice is heard. And what it means is that you don't have to do this alone. You'll actually know how to apply everything we talked about today and your questions will be answered and you'll have that ongoing support that you need. So whether you've only spoken to prospective clients, you've given a few webinars, or you've spoken hundreds of times, the Be a Better Speaker season tickets will help you turn every speaking opportunity into a win. You know, I know human nature is to wait until we're not busy or we feel like we're ready, but here's the deal. We're never not busy. So to help you take action, because I know the Better Speaker season tickets will improve your life and your business, and because I'm so confident in that, and I want to help, I'm offering you a special offer today. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you what it cost me over $20,000 to learn for just $14.97. So picture a day when you know exactly what to say and how to deliver it to increase your speaking value. Picture a day when your audience says, I want to join your business. Picture a day when you don't have to worry about sales, when every piece of communication speaks in the voice of your audience. You're going to feel so good. So I will leave you with this. It's time to speak powerfully so that you can reach your larger audience. It's time to speak powerfully so that you can be seen as a thought leader. It's time to speak powerfully so you can inspire change. It's time to speak powerfully. So we'll open it up to questions. And I'm just looking through the chat as you can input your questions, or I think you can unmute yourself and ask them live as well. I like Priscilla, picture a day when your clients say, thank you for making selling my home so effortlessly. That's great. There's a lot you could probably do with that too, with the way that they want to feel when they're in that house of their dreams and how amazing that's going to be. So great example. So one of the most common questions I get is, how do I approach this? We've talked about a lot of different things today. And my recommendation for you is to pick one thing, like the separation statement that I mentioned, focus on that one part of your presentation and record yourself so that you can go back and you can listen to it afterwards. And then you can continue to refine and say, okay, do I like how that worked out? Now, maybe I want to try this next piece. But listening to yourself is a great way to continue to get better with your presentation skills as well. So we do have a question here. It says, how do you start in getting speaking engagements? How do you get your first assignment? So if you're looking for speaking engagements, there's a couple ways to do it. The first place to start, like I said, is to reach out to people that are already clients or influencers or, people that you really trust and say, hey, what are you listening to? Who do you know maybe that runs a webinar or a podcast? See what they're engaging in so that then hopefully they can introduce you to those people that are meeting organizers. If you don't have that, the alternative other option or additional option you can do too, is there's a lot of great ways that you can Google certain keywords. Like you could say top, I work a lot with financial advisors. So I say top financial advisor conferences 2022. And I can get a list of upcoming events, and you can refine that. You can get more narrow on your space, location, other pieces, but there's lots of ways that you can search for relevant ones if you're looking to show up on somebody else's stage. If you're looking to host your own, you can certainly start those at any time and have your own webinar or conference or however you might want to approach it. Veronica, you said you mentioned a 4-hour workshop with you. Can you elaborate on that and repeat one more time what it includes for it? Yes, great question. So what it is it's 4 1.5-hour strategy sessions. So you can do that however quickly you want to do that. So if you have a presentation coming up and you're like, hey, I want to just do these 4 leading up to it so I can work through my presentation and really feel confident before you give it, you can use it that way. If you don't have a presentation coming up and you want to talk more about, hey, how do I find an opportunity and how do I get booked and what questions should I be asked? We can talk more about that part of the process, or we can talk more about just your delivery in terms of your presentation and conversion language. So it's really there of however frequently or when you want to use those for, and what exactly we want to talk about within the realm of speaking. We can flex that to what's your priority at that time. So it's really designed to help you make sure that you're maximizing the opportunities you already have, or that we can get you more exposure to share your message in a more powerful way. And in terms of the engagement, everything, you can reach out to me, schedule your WWBIC, your free consultation through this contact form with WWBIC, and we can talk more specifically about how to get you started and enrolled in that. It's $14.97 for those 4 calls would be the total investment there. And I have time probably for, well, we're at 12:40, so we do have time for a couple more questions if there are any today. Otherwise, I think we also have a evaluation form for WWBIC that we will love to hear some of your feedback on today's presentation and the service offerings from WWBIC. So as I said, remember the how you want to show up and how big a mark that you can make in terms of just sharing your message with other people, that you're doing something really powerful and getting out there and sharing it. It's one of the best things that you can do for your business. I know I've got several of you that did put your emails in the chat, so I'll make sure I'll share that so we can get you the stage value calculator. And I see the one last question we'll take today. If we already had a free call with you, can we sign up again in order to get more information about the 4-hour workshop? Brianna, are you still there? I don't know if that would cause a problem or if that's okay.
They can, as many times as they want to book with you, they can.
Oh, wonderful. So wonderful. Great news. So yeah, if we've talked before, I know we have, feel free to book another time with us and we can talk more about speaking and what that would look like. And then I had one last thing I was going to leave you all with today too, is if you want an example of a presentation where this is done masterfully, like well beyond what I did today, you really want to hear a winner in the speaking realm and how well she did this, you can put that in the chat too, and I will make sure to share that link of her presentation with you. It's not terribly long, but you will, everything we talked about, you'll see like, oh, this is exactly how she did it, and so smoothly and effortlessly, and why it works so well. So feel free to drop your chat or your contact information. We'll get that out to you as well. And otherwise, I think, Brianna, we just have that last poll. I think it's in here. Let me bring that up. We'll launch that. And we appreciate your time and feedback today, and look forward to connecting with you all one-on-one and hearing more about your powerful stories that you have. Make sure I save the chat while you guys are filling that out. Great. And Brianna, do you have anything else before we wrap up?
If you, not necessarily, but if you want a one-on-one session with Jennifer, I would book today, because September is the last time that WWBIC is providing funding for this really cool opportunity and project. So, you know, after September, you won't be able to have one-on-one services like this.
Yeah. Okay. And we appreciate all the feedback for all of you that have filled that out as well. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll give you back about 15 minutes of your day if you haven't had a chance to grab lunch, to do that, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.